Hello, and welcome to this online campus workshop on how to engage students in online courses. When developing an online course, it's crucial to have components where students are required to interact with you and each other. One of the common concerns of students and instructors when it comes to online education is the lack of interaction. Will they still feel like there are people in the class with them? Will they still feel like there is an instructor in the class? But by planning for ways for students to interact with you and each other and building it into your course as something that will add to the materials, that's going to help them achieve on the assessments, then you can make it actually quite engaging for students and they'll really feel like they know you and their classmates. So one thing to consider is, how do you currently have students interact with you and each other in your online courses? You may already be familiar with the different tools available in Blackboard. That would include discussion boards, wikis, and blogs as the main interactive tools. Also on our East Bay campus, we have recently started to use VoiceThread, which we'll talk about as well. So these are our different tools you can use to foster communication. And as we look at each one, we want to consider what type of communication each tool promotes, and then find the one that matches your goals for the course and develop an activity or an assignment using that so that it's helping you achieve your course goals. Discussion board is probably the tool most people are familiar with in Blackboard. In fact, it's so common that you'll find it in the course menu of the course shell that you receive when your course begins. So that just means there's a section right there available, a button where students can go directly to the discussion board. And when you go into the discussion board, you'll already find it populated with an open discussion form that's ungraded. Students can go in and use that as a place to talk with each other and ask questions. And it also includes a list of netiquette guidelines. So information for students on how they should appropriately interact with each other on the discussion board. So the discussion board is great for discussion. And when you create an assignment using the discussion board, you want to keep that in mind, that this is meant to promote discussion. So to that end, you want to make sure you have a clear question, something that they can respond to. And not only that, it should be a question where people can have multiple responses and points of view. What you really don't want to see is something where you say, summarize chapter 2. There's really not much to say about summarizing chapter 2, and everyone's going to have the same response. That's not very interesting, and that's not going to promote engagement. Rather, you might ask a question about, do you agree or disagree with the perspectives posed in chapter 2? Fill in the blank. It should be more specific than chapter 2. But once you have that prompt that can get them to have multiple responses, that's where you're going to see interaction and engagement happening. Also consider, many people use the discussion board as a weekly assignment, and a nice way to use it is to have it scaffold to a major assignment in the course. So this could be, say you have a final essay that students have to turn in at the end. Maybe the different discussion board assignments throughout the week are going to have them start practicing the ideas or exploring the ideas that could then relate back to that final paper. That might be the seed for their final paper topic in one of those weeks. And that can make it really useful for students, especially if you think about in your on-ground courses, how is discussion often used? Well, it's a chance for students to practice ideas, to test them out, hear what other students think, and have them maybe influence their ideas from there. So you can use the discussion board in the same way, a place for students to practice those ideas and hear what other people are saying before they then have to create their final presentation or essay. And then in terms of communication with each other, you want to make sure you provide really clear guidance and criteria for how they should respond to each other. That could be something as simple as, you're required to respond to 2 other people. One effective tool, though, is to also say, you need to respond to one person you agree with and one person you disagree with. what you really want to avoid is, kind of the pitfall of the discussion board. Everyone responds, "That was a great post. I really loved it." That doesn't provide much discussion or much substance. So the more you can give students those guidelines for your expectations and kind of force them into a real discussion, the more productive that discussion board is going to be. Other ways you might consider using the discussion board rather than just a standard post and respond model. You might have students grade their own post using a rubric you provide that gives them a chance to think critically about how you're going to grade them, and then again apply that maybe to other assignments that will be coming up in the course. You can also organize your students in small groups, and really for any tool you can do that as well. But specifically here, you could have them discuss in a small group that's not visible to other students, and then present a group summary via the discussion board. And then you might consider providing optional or ungraded discussion board forms that, again, can give students a chance to reach out to each other and forge those connections. One common setup you might see is a discussion board form where students can brainstorm about the final exam or ask questions related in preparation for the final exam or a midterm. You might also, though, consider having an area where students are engaging on topics not related to the course. It's just an option, an area where they can talk freely with each other. Some professors call it like a cyber cafe, and they might even participate by talking about things in the news or just something of interest to them. That is just a nice way to use the discussion board to foster that connection in a way that's not graded. Another tool we have available on campus is VoiceThread. VoiceThread is very similar to the discussion board, except it uses video. Essentially, it's a video discussion board. And it's pretty simple. You create the assignment, students go in, you can have it already loaded with maybe something you'd like them to comment on, say a lecture or a video, or students can go in and create their own videos that others can view and comment on. So say you require them to do a presentation of some kind and then respond to 2 of their classmates. When you're considering using VoiceThread, you really want to think about assignments that benefit from them seeing and hearing other students or speaking. So if it is something where they're just responding to a prompt and there's no visual component, then maybe that's not the best use of VoiceThread. You might just use the discussion board for that. If it's something, a really common example is in a foreign language class. Students need to have that practice talking and listening. So that's a great use of VoiceThread, having them respond to a prompt in the language required. It could also be if you want them to create something visual, like say a poster or a PowerPoint slide, and then articulate that and present it. That's also a great use of VoiceThread. Still, when you use VoiceThread, you do want to provide a prompt or a question where students can have multiple answers. That's what's going to prompt discussion, is if people can have different points of view. And again, make sure you're providing guidance for how students should respond to each other, as well as the format in which they should respond. So does it have to be in video? And again, if it does have to be in video, consider why. Why does it have to be in video? Or is it okay for students to respond with audio or text? To that end, you also want to consider in your syllabus, if you are going to be using VoiceThread, that you articulate it very clearly, the different tools that they're going to need on their computer. So if you are going to require video, make sure it says you're going to need a device to record on. You're going to need a microphone. And if you don't have those things, you can check out a laptop from the library. And if that doesn't work for whatever reason, they can get in touch with you and you can then help them find the materials they need. So But VoiceThread can be great. It's very interactive and people love seeing each other. That's one of the benefits of it. But if you are going to use it, you want to think about ahead of time, what is your policy and how are you going to help support students or make accommodations for students who don't have the technical tools that they need to complete those assignments. Within Blackboard, there's also blogs. So a blog is great for more long form writing as opposed to the discussion board. The discussion board, is good for maybe just a short writing and focus more on that response. Blog is great for something that's maybe more reflective. It's a little bit longer. That's because of how they display. In the blogs, you have this index here on the right side of the page, and so it allows for you to click through easily and then look at bigger chunks of text. But then also just how people perceive blogs. They're usually seen as a place where you can go and read personal reflections, right? Just thinking about how they're used online. So you want to consider that if you are going to use a blog, is this going to be a longer form assignment? Is it maybe a more personal assignment? Why is this a blog, not a discussion board? When you do set up the blog, you have two options. You can create a course blog, and that's what you're seeing here. And this is where all students in the course are contributing to the same blog, and then what you see in the index to the left is the titles of their post. So that's everyone's working together to create something. Versus an individual blog where each student will have their own blog and they're contributing. They can only make entries on their own blog. And then what you see indexed over here is still the entries, but then you can also toggle between your own blog where you can make entries and then someone else's where you can read it. In all cases, though, every student in the course will be able to see the blog and every student will be able to comment on it. Let's go to the next slide. So in the same vein, you want to make sure you're providing a prompt or an assignment, again, that promotes maybe long form writing or personal reflection. Again, you might consider how can you scaffold the blog to a major assignment. One really great example I've seen of that is someone who has students do a large research project that they should be working on over the course of the quarter. And they turn it in at the end of the quarter. But they really, in order to be successful in it, need to be hitting milestones all along the way. So this instructor uses the blog as a way for students to check in where they're at in those milestones. The prompt for the week relates to wherever they should be in their research, what they should be considering at this point, reflect on what they've done so far, what challenges they've encountered, what's been successful, tips they have. The idea being then it forces them to achieve that milestone and then also maybe realize, oh wow, like other students are really far ahead of me. I need to catch up. I'm not where I should be. Or also get ideas from each other on how to proceed through that project. So that's a great use of scaffolding the blog to a major assignment. And again, you just want to make sure you're providing guidance for how they should respond to each other. If they're required to comment on each other's blog post, how many comments they need to make, what's the nature of those comments. Again, that's how you're going to best foster that interaction, is by making your expectations clear. And then finally, one unique idea that's out there is to consider using a public blog rather than Blackboard's blog. If you use it in Blackboard, everyone in the class can read it, but then no one outside of the class will have access to it. If you use a public blog, though, then it can be shared with other people, and of course, anyone who stumbles across it will be able to read it. Some instructors have found that actually really excites students because they can share it with their friends and family, and then they tend to put a little bit more effort into it because they know it can be viewed by anyone. And so it does, have that feeling of, if this is public, I need to really be trying hard. Of course, on the converse, you do need to really be upfront with students about the privacy, and consider your own policy. If there are students who feel uncomfortable posting publicly, how are you going to respond to that? Is there an alternative assignment for them? What's your policy, or is it just that's required? That's really your decision to make. Okay, and then finally, we're going to talk about wikis. So the wiki is like the other wiki, the most famous wiki of, Wikipedia. Anyone can go in. Once you, as the instructor, have created the wiki, anyone can go in and create a page that's part of it, and then anyone can edit that page as well. And so this is a really great tool for creating a knowledge base, similar to how Wikipedia is. If students have a research assignment that they need to work on, or something that might be useful to reference, this is a great tool to use, because you can have them add their pages on, say, an article or a theory, and then also have them edit each other's and then link between pages, so that you're having them make the connection between different ideas that are on the wiki. That's a great use for it. You can also use the wiki as an assignment where students need to collaborate. Maybe they are going to write an essay together. The wiki is a useful tool because they can make edits right there to each other's work, and really collaborate, as opposed to sending documents back and forth. And then also you have access to it, so you can really see what work has been done by which students, as opposed to a Google Doc, which has that same great sharing capability, but then is kind of off your radar. The main thing with the wiki, though, is that you really want to focus on collaboration rather than comments. It's not a tool that's great for having a discussion. That's what the discussion board is for, or even blogs. Students are going to be interacting using the wiki, but just maybe in a way you're not used to seeing, because they're actually doing work as opposed to having a discussion back and forth. And again, as with the other tools we've discussed, you want to make sure you're providing structure for how they should contribute to the wiki. Is your expectation that they write a certain number of pages, that they link between a certain number of pages, that they edit a certain amount over the course of the quarter? Make sure that it's clear to students what those expectations are. And again, just to reiterate, no matter what tool you use, the most important thing is to consider what are the goals for the course and the weekly assignments, and then craft assignments that match those goals, rather than saying, oh, wiki is really cool, I want to create a wiki assignment, and then kind of forcing something on it. It's better if it's organic to the course, if it matches your goals, and especially if it's helping them practice skills that they'll need for a major assessment at the end. The more you can connect these engagement assignments to your materials and the major assignments, the more students are going to actually do them, and they're going to feel like it's useful to them and there's a reason for them to be interacting with each other. And again, as with everything, just provide really clear guidelines in your syllabus and with the assignment on how you expect them to interact with each other. So all of these things that we've talked about, this is what's going to make your course engaging for students. It's going to make them excited about the material the same way they get excited when you're with them in class. These tools are replicating that experience, but in the online environment. It also will help you meet Quality Matters standards. Quality Matters is a nonprofit organization that does research into online education, and they've provided a rubric based on this research for what are the qualities in a really good online course. And they've broken it down into different categories. And two of the categories are course activities and learner interaction, and course technology. And that's looking at, are the activities promoting active learning? Do they align with the objectives and the materials and the assessments in the course? And do the tools used similarly promote the same? They're promoting action between the students. It's promoting them to think about the materials, to be active in their learning. So by incorporating these engagement activities that we've talked about today, you'll also be meeting these quality matter standards. What we looked at was the general standards, and more specifically, what you see listed here are the specific standards that you'd be met by creating interactive activities that are aligned to your materials and your assessments. So finally, we can think about, after reviewing these topics and considering the different tools available, what changes do you think you'll make to your engagement activities? And also consider what's working well right now in your online courses and where they can be improved. If you ever want any assistance developing anything in your online course, you can contact the online campus. My name is Rebecca Farvar, and there's my contact information there at the top. And just as a reminder, if you ever need Blackboard support in a technical nature, you can call our Blackboard support line, and that actually is available 24/7. So if you call during regular business hours, you'll speak to someone in the online campus. And if you call after regular business hours or on the weekends or holidays, you will be forwarded to the Blackboard support line, and someone on their team will be able to help you. So thank you for watching this video, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you.